Hello, my love tribe. Welcome to HeartBlend Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Christian, and I focus on mindset and wellness for sensitive souls. So welcome. I'm so happy to have you. If you're new here, welcome to the love tribe. And if you're returning, then hello. I'm so happy to have you back. Today, we are kicking off a new topic, a new series, and we're talking all about soul ties. Yes, soul ties. Man, oh man, this is going to be a very, very powerful topic for a lot of people. And if you're an empath and if you're a sensitive soul, then this might just be the very best podcast topic I've done for you, okay? Because we're really going to touch on some real serious stuff. But once we learn everything we need to know, we will absolutely be able to liberate ourselves in incredible ways. All right, so let's dive in. In this episode, I'm going to share with you what are soul ties and how are soul ties formed. Okay, and then later on throughout the series, we'll talk more about toxic soul ties and loving soul ties and clearing soul ties and all kinds of good stuff. So if you are interested in that, then definitely sit back, relax, and let's tune in. All right. So first and foremost, we do need to remind ourselves that we are all energetically connected, right? You're listening to me right now. We are energetically connected. I may not be listening to you, or I may not hear you or talk to you, but I feel your energy. We are all divinely connected. When we have a very strong connection with someone, we build a soul tie. And so soul ties can be positive, they can be loving, they can be a deep energetic bond with your loved ones, with your family members, with a best friend, with a romantic partner. But soul ties can also be to a community, to an organization, to a group of people, to a tribe. So we can really make whatever is already connected, like almost like this thick cord begins to get built between you and the other individual. And not only do we have positive, loving soul ties that feed us spiritually, that heal our heart, that make us feel so deeply connected, we also have toxic, negative soul ties. And this is where the trouble comes in. When we have a negative soul tie, which can still very much be with a romantic partner, with a friend, with family members, with anyone that you've come in contact with, but there's been a very strong negative experience, all of that can create a negative soul tie. So when you have a toxic soul tie, it can make it very hard for you to really move forward in life. It can block you from feeling free. It can haunt you. It can make you feel a sense of obsession. It can make you feel deeply hurt, like you're carrying this resentment. And this other individual that you have this negative soul tie with, it almost feels as though they're controlling your life. And it can cripple you so much, literally, physically cripple you. And we can create so many emotional ailments within our bodies through negative soul ties. And when we have these soul ties with other individuals, we communicate through that soul tie energetically. So have you ever noticed sometimes you'll think of a person and they contact you? Or maybe you'll dream of a person and they kind of send you a message and you connect with them in reality, physical reality, and you're spot on with what you're sharing. Sometimes you can pick up on if they're deceiving you through your dreams, or maybe you just have this gut feeling like, something's not right. You cannot see that, but you know that it's there. That is the energy of soul ties. So a lot of, skeptical people are going to be like, oh no, it's not real, blah, blah, blah. We're all individuals. But good and well that when you feel a deep connection with someone, it is so much more than what you see on the surface. You physically feel it, you emotionally feel it. That can change your life. A lot of us, especially in the space of, helping to shift our mindset and all of that good stuff, can focus so much on you are the creator of your life, blah, blah, blah. And while you are, we still live with other people. And we are still consistently co-creating our reality with other people. So you have a huge hand, absolutely, in your own reality. You really do. You're in the center of it all. But don't ever underestimate how a soul tie could be affecting you. And I don't know about you, but there are times when I know that my heart is clean, I am pure in whatever I'm doing, and I am pushing so hard, and I'm trying to make things work, or I'm, focusing on bettering myself, or whatever the case may be. And I feel this level of resistance working against me. A lot of times that can be from another individual, because we feed each other energy consistently, and they could be siphoning your energy if you have a negative soul tie out there somewhere. Okay. So I know it's a little woo-woo, but it's real. It's really real. Okay. So those are soul ties. Now, how do we form these soul ties, right? How are they developed? Are they already predestined? How is this created? The other thing I want to remind you is that we have soul contracts with each other. Now, this concept and mindset really helps me in order to process information when it comes to soul ties. When I understand that everything in my life is intentional, that helps me so much, because I can have this feeling of a sense of control, which is what our minds love to do. When I understand that there is a soul contract with each and every person that is in contact with me, there's a purpose behind what they're doing. So if I've had a relationship where the other individual's role in that was to teach me how to love myself deeper because they couldn't, or how to value myself because they couldn't, or how to stand up for myself because they sparked that in me, I recognized that they have this soul contract that they are to come into my life for a certain amount of time and play the role so that I can evolve. So we have some positive people and some negative people, but for me, a lot of times the negative people give me the best lessons. I'm not asking for negative people to come in. Thank you very much. But looking back on it, I'm like, wow, I've grown tremendously. And honestly, it was probably because that person felt unkind to me. We have these soul contracts where everyone plays a role. You play a role in someone's life. Somewhere you've been the villain. Somewhere you've been the hero. Somewhere you've been the angel. Somewhere you've been the devil. Okay. That's just how it is. And we're all designed to help each other grow and evolve. And isn't it such a blessing when you have someone that just helps you out? We need that too. We can't just have lessons. We need someone to help us, guide us through life as well. So that helps me in the sense that when a person's time in my life has ended, for whatever the reason is, they're no longer around, they're moving on, or they are just not connecting with me, or I feel distant, or there's this level of rejection, then I know that that soul contract is ending because they have fulfilled their role. I have learned everything I could possibly learn from them. They played a great puppet. And so that's what I want us to remember when it comes to soul ties, is that we have these soul contracts. So when we start thinking, hey, is this predestined? Like, why do I have this connection with this person or that person, blah, blah, blah. We all come into each other's life to help us get to the next step or phase in our evolution. However, where the problem lies is that we can misinterpret a person's purpose in our life, and we kind of create this picture in our mind of what we want that person to be. And that's where the soul ties really thrive, especially the negative ones, because we will try to force this connection to work longer than it has, or we're not recognizing our own sense of value or self-worth in this moment. So we keep re-experiencing this karmic lesson over and over and over again. And sometimes the A plus is that you leave the connection, that you have so much strength and self-worth and value and love for yourself that you break away from that whole thing. So we can build these soul ties through emotion. When we are emotionally vulnerable with someone, we are sharing a very big piece of ourselves with that other individual. And when they're emotionally vulnerable with us, they are sharing a big piece of themselves with us as well. And that is the first thread in creating that soul tie. Now, what determines if that soul tie is going to be negative or positive is going to be the integrity and the sentiment of that emotion. So is it a negative emotion that you're feeling, or is it a positive emotion that you're feeling with this other individual? And I will say, when it comes to negative soul ties, our negative emotions tend to feel stronger. We feel resentment stronger. We feel anger stronger. We feel despair and desperation stronger. It's like a deep pull, but it's like a heaviness that's there. That pull can be so strong. And when you have those emotions and they are directed towards that other individual, best believe that cord starts to get threaded with that negative emotion. And so almost imagine that when we have a loving soul tie, that cord is like this beautiful, like pink, glowy thread. But when we have this negative soul tie, negative emotions, like this black, yucky cord, right? And it just starts to get stronger and stronger and stronger. The more we pour our emotions into how we feel about that person. So that's the first layer of that cord. The next layer of that cord is what we've agreed to. So if we have agreed to something, we have signed a contract, we have made a promise, we have made a vow, we have completely submitted to the other individual, that creates another cord. So you can almost imagine as though maybe it's not a cord, but it's like kind of like a ribbon that is kind of wrapping around that cord, making that cord a little thicker. But whatever that agreement is, now we can make agreements in various ways. Whether you're signing that contract or signing that agreement to say, I am allowing for this to be X, Y, and Z. A lot of times we can completely give up ourselves without even realizing the weight of what we're saying. So I'm going to give you an example of maybe an agreement that you have said or you have stated and you have felt wholeheartedly about it. And this is a promise that we make, but we don't see it as a promise. We see it as just maybe something you said. So if you've ever said something like, I will never love anyone as much as I love you. I will always do what you ask of me. No one will ever treat me better than X, Y, and Z. Those are some negative agreements that we have made that maybe we did not realize because we just felt so strongly about it, But if you find yourself saying, I will never, or I will always, or I am, blah, 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 we will create agreements and promises in that. Same thing goes for vows in marriage. When you make vows, when you make promises in your marriage, you are making that agreement, and that is getting coded into that soul tie. So it doesn't have to be negative. It can be positive as well, but that's the other piece to it. Now, we make a lot of silly agreements sometimes now, don't we? Whether it's in the workplace, rather it is towards other family members, rather it is even towards ourselves. We can make some agreements and some promises and vows that we may not consciously think is so heavy or so serious. But trust me, if you have said or spoken any of those things subconsciously, they are living in that soul tie, and it can hold you back if it is not in your best interest. That's really the only space we should be making these promises is to ourselves, to God or source, and to our marriage partner if we are getting married. Other than that, we don't need to agree to anything. I am not even going to start on how jobs and companies really take advantage of people off of the contracts that they sign. So we have emotions, right? We have agreements, okay? The next way that the soul tie is going to be formed is going to be through physical contact. So this could be sexual and non-sexual contact, but rest assured, if it is through a sexual contact, you best believe that is going to build a soul tie. No sexual connection is built without creating a soul tie. Even if it was just like this whole little one-time thing, it was just a little hookup, it wasn't that big of a deal. At that point, there is no other level of vulnerability than that. Physically, you have opened your entire body to another person, and you have received each other's physical energy in the most intimate of ways that will absolutely create a soul tie. Whether you want it or you don't want it, it will be created. Now, that can be done in love, so that creates a loving soul tie, or it can be done in pain or negativity, through harm, through abuse, through force, through all of those things. And sometimes, even if it's not something super invasive, but if you've ever been touched in a way that you didn't want to be touched, that will absolutely start to build and create this negative soul tie that can really put a hold on you. If you have ever experienced being touched in a way that was against your will, you begin to lose this sense of ownership of your body. And it happens so frequently, especially to children, to where they don't even have a chance. Now, we were all children at one point, right? So many people didn't have that opportunity, that chance to feel like they could own their body. They felt like their body was always to be given to someone else. And that is going to create negative soul ties too. So even a simple handshake, know that that cord, that line is activated. We're all connected, but that line gets activated just through a handshake. And it just gets stronger and stronger with the more energy we put into it. The other way that those soul ties are formed is when we focus so much on the other individual, whether it's through worry, whether it's through obsession, rather it's through this desire to wanting to connect. You're tying yourself more and binding yourself more with this other person. And the last way I want to share with you how those soul ties can be formed is through memory. When you spend time with others, share special moments, experiences, memories, you are both there at that same place and time. You are both there, seeing the same thing, smelling the same thing, hearing the same thing, touching the same thing. You're both feeling and becoming intertwined in this moment through memories and experiences. And that forms a soul tie. Now, whether it's a negative experience or a positive experience, you have created a bond. So with all that being said, I want you to really think today, who do you have a strong soul tie with? And is it positive or is it negative? And sometimes there's almost like this fluctuation, a mismatch of energy, because we can experience both positive and negative experiences with another person. But what's the overall feeling, right? Or are we just feeling neutral? And in that space, we know we're connected, but maybe that soul tie is just not that strong. So we don't need to focus on it. But really think more in the sense of, what are your loving soul ties that help you heal, that help you feel good, that you can laugh, that when you reflect on this person, you're just put in a sense of peace and at ease and love. And then what are those negative soul ties that you just immediately cringe inside? You feel so heavy just even thinking about them. All right, well, this concludes our episode on soul ties. If you want to know more and get really in depth on soul ties and cord cutting and all of that good stuff, you can go to HeartBlend Academy and there is some more information there. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, thank yourself for showing up today, and thank you for tuning in to HeartBlend Podcast.